Who can tell us? Somebody out there has to know. What is the publication of record? Don't all speak at once. Okay. Well, it means it's the official publication. If, for example, there are minutes to a meeting, if there are bylaws to a particular group, a particular committee, this would be the official publication where they are published. Now, of the two journals, CNRL News and College and Research Libraries, which one would you look in to find the ACRL standards for academic libraries? They were revised about a year ago, I think in 2005. They were published in one of these two journals. Which journal would publish them? The News, because it is the publication of record. So they're saying this is the new standard, this is where it is published. In other words, the official business of the association is published here because this is the publication of record. So just the definition, but something that will help you as you're approaching editors to these various journals. It maintains a record of selected actions and policy statements of the association and publishes timely reports of on the activities of ACRL and its units. So again, that would be the News. And the title pretty well describes it. News about the association is published here. Okay, material should fall into one of the following categories. Articles on a project, program, or service dealing with a topic relevant to academic librarianship. They give you an example of a previously published article. Something Wiki This Way Comes in December 2005. Anybody want to guess what that article might have been about? Maybe wikis, maybe the Wikipedia? Okay. Essays for The Way I See It that offer reasoned and informed speculation or comment on relevant topics. For example, are panel interviews the way to go? The pros and cons of simultaneous interviewing. So they give you some examples of articles they've liked in the past. And if this may give you some ideas, it may be similar but not duplicating of something you have in mind. So this is always very, very helpful to look at. Topics for the Internet Resources column. Submit a topic and brief information about the compiler's knowledge of the proposed topic. The compiler is you, of course. Tell them, this is my idea, and this is what I know about it. This is why I'm an expert in the field. You don't have to use that term, but this is the reason I think that I know what I'm talking about. Because I've been doing this for 16 years, or because we just did this big experiment at our institution, and it worked or it didn't work, or I got my trial by fire. This is why I know something about it. So that's all you have to do. This is my idea. This is why I know something about it. Then you'll begin to discuss that idea, and they'll tell you to go ahead with it or not to go ahead with it. Also, essays that explore the ACRL president's theme. Of course, there's a new president every year, so there's a new theme every year. Find out who the president-elect is, what the theme is for his or her presidency, and you can write on that particular topic. It may be information literacy, it may be library technology, maybe public services, it could be something else. Humorous essays related to issues of academic librarianship and higher education. If you're a humorist, if you like to write the humorous article, this may be someplace you want to have it submitted. Again, as it applies to academic and research librarianship. Okay, essays for the Scholarly Communication column. ACRL's Scholarly Communication Committee has editorial responsibility for this column. So if you have ideas, you need to submit them to that particular group. Manuscript ideas should be sent to the committee chair. And you can look on the website and see who that is because it will change from year to year. Standards, guidelines, or recommendations of an ACRL committee or other official ACRL group. Probably not something you would be writing unless you happen to be the secretary of that particular committee. Some other ALA divisional publications that we might mention. Library technology reports are expert guides to library systems and services. When I first started at the state network, These were my Bible, Library Technology Reports. I was dealing with microcomputer-based library automation systems, a field that was much larger than my knowledge thereof, a field that was continuing to grow and change. This was way back in the early 90s when there was this huge dividing line between microcomputer-based systems that ran under DOS at that time. This was pre-Windows, oh boy. And the larger systems like Dynix, Notice, and some of the other systems that were out there. Huge, huge gap between them. A gentleman from here in California named Joe Matthews had written 2 issues in Library Technology Reports analyzing and evaluating each of the viable systems at that time. And believe me, I kept these on my desk right next to my phone. If you are an expert in a particular area, you can contact the editors of Library Technology Reports and put together a very weighty tome like this on your particular area of expertise. Another one they did was a sample request for bids for a library automation system. I'm trying to remember the gentleman that wrote that, but again, it was quite sizable. It was just a sample that a library could use when you're sending out a request for bids for a library automation system. There may be another area in which you're a particular expert, have a great deal of experience. You can contact them about that. Another divisional publication, Children in Libraries, the journal of the ALSC, Association for Library Services to Children, if I've got that right. If I don't, correct me, because these are not all my area. But if you're working with children in libraries, whether in the elementary schools or the public library, whatever area, this may be a source in which you'd like to have your work published. Information Technology in Libraries, another publication of LIDA. Library Administration and Management, you might guess it's from LAMA, the Library Administration and Management Association, another ALA division. If you're in the area of management or administration, you want to write something in that particular area, whether it's how to hire somebody, how to evaluate somebody. It may be the evaluation of new employees, maybe the evaluation of support staff, anything at all. This might be a place you want to get published. Another is RBM, a journal of rare books, manuscripts, and cultural heritage, published also, I believe, by the ACRL. Then AASL, American Association of School Librarians, AASL Hot Links. Something you might want to look up, find out what types of articles they're publishing, what the requirements are. Then there are other associations outside the ALA, and there are a number of them, so I'm not giving anybody favoritism over here, just ALA is quite larger than many of the others, so they do get a lot more of our attention. The Special Libraries Association publishes Information Outlook. So if your interest is a legal library, a law library, a dental library, a medical library, a music library, any other area, you might be interested in publishing something for the Special Libraries Association. If you're in public libraries, Public Library Association publishes a journal called, appropriately enough, Public Libraries. The American Theological Library Association publishes the ATLA newsletter and the Theology Cataloging Bulletin. Maybe you are an expert in publishing some type of rare manuscript that theology libraries would have. And you have figured out how these things can be cataloged, or you had a particular situation in your library that you needed to catalog them a particular way. It may be an experience that's helpful to others and you want to share that. This might be a source that you could do that. If your area of interest is medical libraries, the Journal of the Medical Library Association, MLA's Quarterly, is a peer-reviewed scholarly journal. The Music Library Association publishes Music Cataloging Bulletin. They publish technical reports. Again, there may be a lot of others. I'm not familiar with all of these. I'm not a music librarian, so Those of you who are may know, I'm sure know a great deal about this more than I, but I just want to point out some sources to you to say that whatever your area of interest, there's probably something out there that covers your particular focus. Then there are the state library associations. The California Library Association publishes a journal called California Libraries. The Indiana Library Federation, they paid a consultant a few years ago to search, their name used to be Indiana Library Association. They wanted a new name. They paid a consultant big bucks to come in who did all these surveys and focus groups, and I'm sure charged them a lot of money and decided, change your name to Indiana Library Federation. So anyway, that's used to be the Indiana Library Association. They publish Focus on Indiana Libraries, and they publish another one called Indiana Libraries. The Louisiana Library Association publishes Louisiana Libraries. But they're out there. They published on diverse topics. Sometimes they publish a theme issue. That is, all of the articles in a particular issue tie into a certain theme. It may be information literacy or information competency if you live in California. But for those of you who don't know, in the other 49 states, we call that information literacy. It may be on music librarianship. Your state publication may focus on that for an issue. But look at these journals, read them, and see what they're interested in. Then we have the commercial publications. Probably the best known one is Library Journal. Their mission statement is to provide a one-stop source for all the information that library directors, managers, and others in public, academic, and corporate or institutional libraries need to run their libraries and make their purchasing decisions, as well as for publishers, distributors, and other vendors in the library market. They consider it both a professional journal and a working tool. They say that they are the only independent journal in the field and the only one that is edited to be a conduit between vendors and librarians and vice versa. Again, their statement, not mine. Library Journal combines analytical news reports, features, and columns on the cutting edge of library technology, policy, management, and other issues, and includes reviews, as we saw a little earlier. Their statement: if you have a news idea that you would like to share with us, please contact Norman Oder, news editor. And there is his email address. Their sister publication, School Library Journal, is looking for the following. For features, manuscripts for feature articles should be 1,500 to 2,500 words in length on any topic relating to the collaborative and leadership roles the librarian or library staff has with educators, as well as articles relating to youth librarianship in school or public libraries. Features should be written in an easily accessible conversational style that is free of academic or professional jargon. So if this is not your style, if your style is more of a scholarly thing that is full of jargon or professional terms, professional language, this may not be the place you want to submit your article to. It might not be the journal you want to write for. But if this is your style, then it's something you want to consider. So again, I'll rehash what I said. Look at their website, look at the masthead on the journal, look at their guidelines, their suggestions, and that'll give you a lot of tips on what you should or should not do. Up for discussion, an 1,800-word column on aspects of book selection. The honorarium is $300, paid upon publication. I will tell you, by the way, as one who has written both articles and books, there's more money in writing articles than there is in writing books, particularly within our field. Unless you're Danielle Steele or somebody else that are writing best-selling fiction or best-selling nonfiction, you'll get more money for less work from an article than you will from writing a scholarly book. Now, I realize that for most of us, money is not where it's at, but if you need to pay next semester's tuition to get through library school, you can write an article, and for this particular column, $300 is their standard rate. Of course, with the book you don't usually know because it's on an honorarium basis, depends on how many sell. Okay. What works is an 850-word column, and that's what works, the title. I'm not saying this is what works. An 850-word column that describes step-by-step a successful library program that could be easily and inexpensively replicated by a librarian. The honorarium is $175, paid upon publication. A publisher's term here that you want to be familiar with, there are a couple of different times you can be paid. Some journals pay upon acceptance. That means as soon as they accept your article and say, we will publish this in some future issue, you get your money. If it's paid upon publication and your article is published in the July 2007 issue, you will not get your money until July 2007. And of course, again, if it's a book and you're writing for an honorarium, you will not receive your money until the books have actually been sold. So something you want to be very, very clear about in signing a contract, and you will sign a contract for just about any article or book you write, is when you will be paid as well as how much. Okay, Make Your Point is an 850-word opinion piece on any issue affecting librarians or library service. The honorarium is $175, paid upon publication. So if you have a very strong opinion and you say, I don't think we should waste our time teaching information competency in school libraries because, make your point, submit it to them. Particularly if you go against the popular way of thinking that information competency is a good thing and a positive thing, you're likely to break into print. Okay, Educator's Resource Kit, a 1,500-word column providing library media specialists with the insights, strategies, and resources they need to cultivate their collaborative and leadership roles in the school. Learning Quarterly, also in School Library Journal, is a quarterly installment focusing on the most challenging, hot-button issues in education. So what's going on in the field of education? How does that relate to libraries? Look for that tie-in. Learning Quarterly offers hands-on strategies and solutions for librarians on how to collaborate with teachers and administrators to meet those challenges, and will include commentary from administrators on how they've met specific challenges by working with school librarians. So maybe you and your school principal want to co-author something. Good chance to not only work on a project together, but also get it into print. Another commercial publication, Computers in Libraries, published by Information Today. This is also a journal that I've been published in. The latest thing I had published, I think, was using PDAs in libraries. I co-authored it because I didn't want to do it by myself. I didn't feel competent, certainly at that time. So I co-authored it with Nancy John, who is at the University of Illinois in Chicago or University of Chicago? I've forgotten now. University of Illinois in Chicago, thank you. Since retired, lucky Nancy. But their mission statement is to provide librarians and other information professionals with useful and insightful information about computer-related subjects that affect their jobs. Computers in Libraries, as you may know, sponsors a number of conferences, an increasing number of conferences. Their primary one used to be called Computers in Libraries, just like the journal. Then they started having the West Coast version, which is coming up, I think, early November in Monterey, called Internet Librarian, also sponsored by Information Today. But there's very frequently a tie-in between the presenters at their conferences and the people who write articles for them. So if you break into print, that could work into an invitation to present at one of their conferences, the opposite being true as well. These are articles that are written by library professionals for library professionals, and I can't stress this enough, with a friendly, personal voice. They want articles that are almost chatty. They want articles that are of the nature, this is how we done it good. They want to know what you did. Personal, one-to-one. I'm sharing my advice with you. They do not want the heavy, weighty, scholarly thing. I've been through their editorial process, and if it gets weighty and scholarly, they will bounce it back to you. So if chatty and informative is your style, a good publication to write for. General technical articles should be practical and helpful for the average librarian in any sort of environment, academic, public, special, K-12, or corporate libraries. CIL aims to publish articles that are interesting to read and appealing to people in many aspects of the field. So they don't want you to write something that focuses on research libraries only or corporate libraries only, but they want something that applies to many types of libraries. Another area in which you might publish, the area of translations. You might translate an article, you might translate a book. You need to be pretty fluent in both languages to be able to do this. I recently spoke at a library conference in Mexico, and I've done it before. It wasn't terribly intimidating, not as much as it had been the first time. But I said to them, it's not the same to stand up here in front of a group of professional librarians when I don't use the professional vocabulary in my US library on a day-to-day basis. And it's just not the same as being at home and say, hey, I'm hungry, what have you made for dinner? Which I can say very well in Spanish. I could probably say that in several languages. But using professional language, professional vocabulary is not the same. So you need to be versed in the professional vocabulary as well as the day-to-day language. But some of you, I'm sure, have language ability. Good area to consider. Blogs, another way to break into print. You're at least getting the exposure, you're getting your name out there. I'm not aware of any commercial blogs. There may be some, there probably are, where you actually get paid for putting your writings up on the blog. But if you have a point of view, it's a good way to get out there, to get exposure. A lot of the most popular writers publish in all of these formats. I'm thinking of one who's just a little way up the 101 here, who publishes everywhere. And he publishes in the scholarly journals, he publishes his own things, he sends out things on email, a name you would recognize in a heartbeat, probably has been here to lecture to you. And if not, you should get him. Getting the exposure cannot hurt. Websites, of course, closely akin to the blogs. You might want to put up your own website, a website on a particular topic, whatever your area of interest is. It'll get you out there, it'll get you the exposure, it'll get you known. Then you can say to the editor or the publisher, for the last 5 years, I've maintained my own website on X, Y, or Z. And they may have heard of that website and say, oh yeah, you're the expert we want to write in this particular area. Software, something I did early on, back when we all had, those of us who had computers had Apples, Apple IIs, 2 pluses, 2 E's, if anything, long before the Mac and the iMac and the PCs. But there was back then opportunity to publish software. I published a couple of little conversion programs that would convert metric to non-metric and Fahrenheit to centigrade and some other things, and got it out there. So this may be your area, maybe something you want to do. And then, of course, we get to books. So let's look very briefly at some of the major library publishers. First of all, we have talked about ALA Press. They publish not only journals, but they publish many, many books. If you look on their website, you can see what they're publishing. And we'll talk more about some tips for breaking into print in a minute. But communicate with them. Find out what's going on. Find out where they're going in the near future. Information Today, the publishers of Computers and Libraries magazine. They also publish books. I've had the privilege of having several books published with them. I like working with them because their writings are generally not heavy, not scholarly. They're really my style of writing, and I found them very good to work with because our styles match. Scarecrow Press, probably leaning toward the more scholarly type things. But look at some of their books, look at their titles. Are any of you going to any conferences in the near future, CLA or an interlibrarian? Okay, good. I see a couple of hands. Maybe ALA, which is on the West Coast this midwinter. I don't know why they don't have it south where it's going to be warm. We go to Seattle where it'll be cold, but still. Go through the exhibits. Look at what these various publishers have to offer. See if what they're writing fits in with what they're publishing fits in with what you would be interested in writing. Are the topics the same? Is the style the same? Libraries Unlimited. Now, Libraries Unlimited, Scarecrow, and Greenwood are all kind of affiliated these days. But they each have their own imprints. So look to see what type of publications each one is interested in doing. Hayworth Press, another scholarly publisher out there. You might want to look into them again, see how well matched you are to what they're doing. University presses. I'm sure San Jose State has its own press. I don't know that. Does anybody know? Is there a San Jose State press? Maybe not. But probably UC, CSU have their own presses. I know University of Missouri does. So you might be interested in writing something that's totally outside the field of library science. You might be interested in writing about your hobby, you know, photography or gardening or cooking or quilting or woodworking, whatever your hobby happens to be. That's okay too. Sometimes university presses publish things like that. Or the history of quilting in the state of Missouri might be a likely topic. Combine your interest in quilting with your library research skills. Find out when quilting started in the state and what was being done. If you're interested in writing fiction and you want to tie it into your profession, what can you do? Well, write about books set in libraries, books with librarian characters, and hopefully you'll break the stereotype, do some things to help break it down. Books involving library skills, research skills, investigating skills. Wouldn't it be great if the research librarian dug in using those particular skills and solved the murder? Think about that. It's something that, you know, maybe it's your kind of writing.